3 months of silence, 3 months of watching her move through his office like a ghost, believing she was invisible. 3 months of Damien standing in the shadows of his own empire, unable to look away from the woman who cleaned his world while he slowly fell apart in it. But tonight, when Elena reached for the crystal paperweight on his desk, when her fingers trembled just slightly as she dusted around the leather chair where he made million-dollar decisions, he couldn't stay hidden anymore. He stepped out of the darkness near the floor-to-ceiling windows, and his voice cut through the silence like a confession. "I've been watching you." She froze. The cleaning cloth fell from her hands, and in that moment, suspended between Millionaire and something far more dangerous, both of them knew nothing would ever be the same. If you want to know how a woman who scrubbed floors at midnight became the only thing a billionaire CEO couldn't stop thinking about, subscribe now. Hit that like button if you believe love can find you in the most unexpected places. And tell me in the comments, have you ever felt invisible until someone really saw you? Your story matters here. The city never truly slept, but at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, the 42nd floor of the Cross and Associates building came close. The cleaning crew had strict instructions: work quietly, touch nothing personal, be gone by midnight. Elena Martinez had followed these rules for 3 months, moving through the executive offices like water, barely making a sound, leaving everything pristine and untouched except for the dust and fingerprints she erased. She was 26 years old and exhausted in a way that went deeper than physical tiredness. It was the exhaustion of working 2 jobs, of sending money home to her mother in Queens, of studying for her accounting degree in the few hours between shifts when sleep seemed like a luxury she couldn't afford. The cleaning job paid better than most. Night shift premium, discretionary bonus for the executive floor, no questions asked about her immigration paperwork, because the staffing agency handled all that. She needed it. Desperately. So she kept her head down, her earbuds in, and her hands moving. Damien Cross watched her from his office. Not every night, but most nights. He told himself it was coincidence, that he just happened to be working late, that the acquisition deal with the Singapore firm required these hours. But the truth, the one he barely admitted even to himself, was darker and simpler. He couldn't stop watching her. At 39, Damien had built an empire. Cross and Associates dominated the private equity landscape. His personal wealth exceeded most small nations. He'd been featured in Forbes, interviewed on CNBC, photographed with presidents and princes, and he was desperately, crushingly lonely. The kind of loneliness that money couldn't touch, that success only deepened. He'd tried everything, dated models and actresses, attended charity galas, bought a penthouse with views of Manhattan that took people's breath away. But every night he ended up here, in his office, alone, until 3 months ago, when the cleaning company changed their crew rotation and Elena Martinez appeared pushing a cart full of supplies and changed absolutely everything. She didn't know he was there most nights. His private office had a separate entrance, soundproofed walls, windows that could switch from clear to opaque with a touch. He could see out. She couldn't see in. He watched her work with a focus that bordered on obsession, the way she bit her lower lip when she concentrated on getting a stubborn mark off the glass conference table, the way she always reorganized the pens on his desk by color, even though he'd never asked for that, the way she sometimes stopped just for a moment and stared out at the city lights with an expression of such profound longing it made his chest ache. He learned her routine. She started in the conference rooms, moved to the associate offices, saved his executive suite for last. She took her time there, not because she was lazy, but because she seemed to understand that this space mattered. She dusted every book on his shelf, straightened every document, watered the ridiculous orchid his secretary kept trying to keep alive. And she hummed, quietly, songs in Spanish that he didn't understand, but that somehow sounded like prayers. Tonight was different. Tonight, Damien had made a decision. He couldn't keep living like this, watching from the shadows, building fantasies about a woman he'd never spoken to. It was unhealthy, inappropriate. She was his employee, technically, even if she worked for the contracted cleaning company. There were power dynamics, HR nightmares, 1,000 reasons why he should just let her finish her shift and disappear into the night like she had for 3 months. But when she entered his office, when he saw her from his hidden vantage point near the windows, something in him broke. She was wearing the same thing she always wore. Dark blue scrubs-like uniform, hair pulled back in a ponytail, white sneakers that squeaked slightly on the marble floors. No makeup, no jewelry except for a small silver cross at her throat. She looked nothing like the women he usually noticed, and she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. He watched her move around his desk, saw her pause at the paperweight, the baccarat crystal sphere his father had given him the day Cross and Associates went public. She picked it up carefully, reverently, holding it up to catch the light from the city below. For just a moment, she smiled. Joy, the small private smile that transformed her entire face. And Damien couldn't stay silent anymore. He stepped out of the shadows. She didn't hear him at first. He was in his sock feet, having kicked off his Italian leather shoes hours ago. He moved closer, close enough to smell her, that mix of industrial cleaning products, and underneath, something softer. Vanilla, maybe. Or just her. I've been watching you. The words came out lower than he intended. Rougher. Charged with 3 months of restrained wanting. Elena's hands went numb. The paperweight slipped from her fingers and Damien lunged forward, catching it inches before it hit the desk. His hand brushed hers. The contact lasted less than a second, but felt like lightning. She stumbled backward, her cart clattering, supplies scattering across the pristine floor. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. "I'm sorry," she gasped, her accent thickening with panic. "I wasn't stealing, I swear. I was just cleaning. I always clean. I never take anything. Please don't—" "Hey." His voice softened immediately. He set the paperweight down carefully and raised both hands like she was a frightened animal. "Hey, no, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." But she was scared, terrified. This job was everything. Without it, she couldn't make rent, couldn't send money home, couldn't afford the textbooks for next semester. Her mind raced through worst-case scenarios, while her body remained frozen, every muscle locked. "Please," she whispered. "I need this job. I'll be more careful. I won't touch anything personal anymore. Elena." She stopped. He knew her name. How did he know her name? "I'm not going to fire you," Damien said, and there was something in his voice that made her finally actually look at him. Really look. She had seen him before, of course, from a distance, walking through the building lobby in the mornings when her night shift was ending, in photographs on the wall of the executive hallway. Damien Cross, founder and CEO, the man who built this empire from nothing. But she'd never been this close, never seen the way his dark hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. Never noticed the shadows under his green eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. Never realized how tall he was, how broad his shoulders were under that expensive white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He looked exhausted and sad and dangerous in a way that had nothing to do with her job security and everything to do with the way he was looking at her, like she was something precious he'd found in the rubble of his life. Then why she started. Then stopped. Her English always got worse when she was nervous. Why were you watching me? Damien exhaled slowly, ran a hand through his hair, confirming her suspicion about the disheveled state. He walked to the windows, putting distance between them, maybe giving her space to breathe. Because you're the only real thing in my world, he said quietly. The city sprawled beneath them, a galaxy of lights, millions of lives playing out in buildings and streets below. Elena's reflection appeared in the glass. Small, uncertain, so different from his tall, commanding presence. I don't understand, she said. He turned to face her, leaned against the window like he needed the support. 3 months ago, you started working this floor, and every night I find excuses to stay late just to watch you work. He laughed, short and bitter. That sounds insane. I know it sounds insane. It sounds... She searched for the word, found it. Lonely. Something shifted in his expression, like she'd reached through all his defenses and touched something raw. I am, he admitted. Lonely, despite all this. He gestured vaguely at the office, the building, the empire. I have everything and nothing. And then you appeared, humming songs in Spanish while you cleaned. And suddenly, I had a reason to be here that wasn't just avoiding going home to an empty apartment. Elena's fear was slowly being replaced by something else. Curiosity, confusion, and underneath, a warmth she didn't want to acknowledge. This couldn't happen. She knew that instinctively. Men like Damien Cross didn't notice women like her except as invisible hands that kept their world running. This was a fantasy, a mistake, but her heart wouldn't listen to logic. You reorganize my pens, Damien said, and there was something almost vulnerable in the observation. By color, every night. The chaos bothered me, Elena admitted. You're too important to have a messy desk. I'm not important. You have 1,700 employees. You're on the cover of Fortune magazine. Your decisions affect thousands of lives. She'd done her research after the first week, looked him up, read articles about his meteoric rise, his ruthless business acumen, his mysterious personal life. You're very important. Not to anyone who matters, Damien said quietly. The silence that followed was thick with everything they weren't saying. Elena should leave. Clock out! Run! This conversation was dangerous, but her feet wouldn't move. Why are you telling me this? She finally asked. Damien moved closer, not threatening, just closing the distance carefully. Because I can't keep pretending you're invisible. Because every night I watch you care for this space like it matters, like I matter, and I realize I haven't felt cared for in years. Because you smile at a paperweight and I want to know what makes you smile. Because, he stopped himself. Because I'm probably crossing every professional boundary that exists and you should report me to HR immediately. I won't, Elena said. She didn't know why she said it, just knew it was true. Why not? Because I understand, she whispered. Being lonely, feeling invisible, working so hard you forget there's supposed to be more to life than just surviving. His eyes locked on hers. In that moment, the 42nd floor, the city, the entire world seemed to shrink until it was just the two of them standing in a pool of light while darkness pressed against the windows. What's your story, Elena Martinez? Damien asked. Why are you cleaning offices at midnight when you're clearly smart enough to do anything else? She shouldn't tell him, should not open up, but something about the rawness in his voice, the way he looked at her like she was a mystery he desperately needed to solve, made the truth spill out. I'm getting my accounting degree, she said. Online classes. But they're expensive. And my mother, she's sick. Diabetes. The medications cost more than her insurance covers. My father, he died 3 years ago. Construction accident. No life insurance, So I work. 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I send money home. I study when I can. And I clean your office at night because it pays better than anything else I can find that doesn't ask too many questions about my work visa status. You're undocumented. There was no judgment in the question, just curiosity. My visa expired, Elena admitted. I'm trying to fix it, but lawyers are expensive. Everything is expensive, so I work. And I clean. And I try not to think about how tired I am. Damien felt something crack open in his chest. This woman, this beautiful, determined woman, who reorganized his pens and hummed songs to herself while she worked, was carrying a weight that would have crushed most people. And she did it with grace, with dignity, without complaint. How old are you? He asked. 26. 12 years younger than him, a lifetime of difference in their experiences. You should be out with friends, dating, living your life, not working yourself to death. Elena smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Should be doesn't pay bills, Mr. Cross. Damien, he corrected. Call me Damien, please. That's not appropriate. None of this is appropriate, he pointed out. But I don't care anymore. I've spent 3 months being appropriate, being professional, watching you from the shadows like some kind of stalker. I'm done with appropriate. He took another step closer, close enough now that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, close enough to notice how her pulse jumped at the base of her throat. I want to know you, not as my cleaning person. As Elena. The woman who treats my office like it's sacred, who studies accounting, who sends money home to her mother, who hums in Spanish when she thinks no one is listening. Why? The question was barely a whisper. Because in 3 months of watching you, you're the only person who's made me feel anything real. Elena's breath caught. She should step back, create distance, remember the power differential, the impossibility of this situation. But she didn't. What do you feel? She asked, and the question came out far more curious than frightened. Damien reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement, giving her every chance to pull away. His fingers brushed a strand of hair that had escaped her ponytail, tucking it gently behind her ear, the same gesture he'd imagined making 1,000 times. Her work. Like I've been sleepwalking through my life, he said softly, and you're the first thing that's woken me up. The touch of his fingers against her skin sent electricity racing through Elena's body. She'd been touched before, held hands, kissed, but nothing had ever felt like this. Like every nerve ending was suddenly alive and screaming. She pulled back abruptly. I should finish my shift. Elena, this isn't real, matter. Mr. Cross. Damien. His name felt strange in her mouth. Too familiar. Too intimate, You're lonely. I'm convenient. I'm here. But tomorrow, in daylight, you'll remember I'm the cleaning lady. You'll remember the distance between us. And this will be embarrassing for both of us. You think this is about convenience? Damien's voice had an edge now. You think I haven't tried to stop thinking about you? You think I wanted to become the kind of man who lurks in his office just to catch glimpses of someone he can't have? Then why are you doing it? Because you're extraordinary, he said simply. And I can't pretend you're not. Elena wanted to believe him, desperately, but life had taught her to be careful with beautiful promises from powerful men. I need to work. Then work, Damien said. I'll leave. I won't watch anymore. I won't make this harder for you. He moved toward the door, and Elena felt panic rise in her throat, which was insane. She should want him to leave, should be relieved. But instead, she heard herself say, Wait. He stopped, turned. The hope in his eyes was almost painful to witness. I finish at midnight, she said. There's a diner 3 blocks from here, Julio's. It's open all night. I know it, Damien said. Meet me there. Elena knew this was a mistake, knew she was crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed, but she nodded anyway. 30 minutes. I'll be there. He left then, and the office felt impossibly empty without him. Elena stood in the silence, her heart racing, her mind screaming warnings her heart refused to hear. She finished her shift in a daze, cleaned mechanically without her usual care. Her thoughts were chaos. What was she doing? This man was her employer, technically. He was a billionaire. She was undocumented, broke, exhausted. This couldn't go anywhere. It was fantasy, escapism, dangerous. But when midnight came, when she clocked out and walked the 3 blocks to Julio's diner, Damien was already there. Sitting in a booth by the window, still in his dress shirt and suit pants, but somehow looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. He stood when she entered, pulled out the chair across from him like they were at a 5-star restaurant instead of a greasy spoon diner that smelled like coffee and fried eggs. "You came?" he said, and the relief in his voice was palpable. "I said I would. People don't always do what they say." Elena slid into the booth, suddenly hyper-aware of her cleaning uniform, her lack of makeup, the way she must look after a full shift. "I keep my word." A waitress appeared, older woman, seen everything. "What'll it be, honey?" "Just coffee," Elena started. "And the pancake special," Damien added, "with extra bacon and orange juice, and whatever pie you have today." "I don't need," Elena began. "When did you last eat?" Damien asked. Elena's silence was answer enough. The waitress nodded knowingly, and Disapiti appeared. "You can't keep taking care of everyone else and forgetting yourself," Damien said. "Says the man who works until midnight every night." "Touché." They looked at each other across the chipped Formica table, and something passed between them. Understanding, recognition. 2 lonely people who'd found each other in the least likely place. "Tell me something real," Damien said. "Something you've never told anyone." Elena considered. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Every single day. Terrified my mother will get sicker. Terrified I'll get deported before I can fix my papers. Terrified I'll fail my classes because I'm too tired to focus. Terrified that all this working and struggling won't be enough. And yet you keep going. What choice do I have? You're stronger than you know." The pancakes arrived, mountains of them, golden and steaming, drowning in syrup. Elena's stomach growled audibly. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten anything that wasn't a protein bar grabbed between shifts. "Eat," Damien said gently. She did, and it was glorious. Damien watched her with an intensity that should have made her self-conscious, but instead felt like being seen. Truly seen, not as a function or a convenience, but as a whole person with needs and hungers. "Your turn," Elena said, jump between bites. "Tell me something real." Damien was quiet for a long moment. His fingers wrapped around his coffee cup, and Elena noticed the calluses. Unexpected on a billionaire's hands. "I built this company because I thought success would make me matter," he finally said. "My father was a mechanic. Good man. Worked himself to death trying to provide for us. Died of a heart attack at 53 with nothing to show for it, but medical bills and regrets. I swore I'd never be like that. Never be powerless. Never be poor." "So you became rich." "I became empty," Damien corrected. "I thought money would fill the void, but it's just made it bigger. I have everything a person could want, and I wake up every day wondering what the point is, until—" He stopped himself. "Until what?" "Until I saw you caring for my space like it mattered, like I mattered, and I realized I'd forgotten what it felt like to be treated like a human being instead of a walking checkbook." Elena set down her fork. "Is that what people see? When they look at you?" "It's what everyone sees, except you. You never Googled me, did you?" "I did. Elena admitted. After the first week, I wanted to know who I was cleaning for. And I read about your success, your deals, your wealth. But that's not what I see when I look at Heartwarming. What do you see? Elena met his eyes. Someone who stays late at the office because going home means being alone. Someone who keeps an orchid alive, even though it takes constant care, because it's the only living thing in your space. Someone who looks at the city like he built it, but doesn't belong in it. Damien's breath caught. You see too much. Is that bad? It's terrifying, he admitted. I've spent 20 years building walls, and you just walked through all of them, without even trying. The diner was nearly empty. Just them and the waitress and a truck driver at the counter. Outside, the city was winding down, the space between night and morning when anything seemed possible. I should go, Elena said, but she didn't move. Should you? This is a fantasy. We both know that. You're you, I'm me. There's no world where this works. Then let's not think about worlds or futures or complications, Damien said. Let's just have this, tonight, this conversation, this connection. And tomorrow we figure it out. Or we don't. But right now, I'm sitting in a diner with the most interesting person I've met in years, and I don't want it to end. Elena knew she should be practical, should protect herself. But when he looked at her like that, like she was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life, practicality seemed irrelevant. What do you want to know? She asked. Everything. Start with the songs you hum. What are they? My grandmother's favorite songs. She raised me after my father was deported the first time. When I was 8, she'd sing while she cooked, while she cleaned, while she did everything. She died when I was 16, but I still hear her voice sometimes. I'm sorry. Don't be. She was happy. She knew how to find joy in small things. I think about her when work gets hard. She cleaned houses too, but she never let it diminish her. She knew her worth had nothing to do with other people's dirt. Sounds like you inherited that from her. I try. They talked until the diner started filling with early morning workers. Talked until the sky began to lighten. Talked about everything. And nothing. His lonely childhood, her complicated family, his business failures no one knew about, her dream of becoming a CPA, maybe opening her own practice someday. The hours dissolved, and somewhere in those hours, something shifted. The impossibility of it stopped mattering. The complications faded into background noise. There was just this. Two people connecting in a way that felt inevitable and fragile and terrifying all at once. I should really go, Elena finally said, as dawn broke pink and gold over the city. I have class in 2 hours, online, but still, and I need to sleep. Let me drive you home. I take the subway. Please, let me do this one thing. Elena hesitated, then nodded. Damien paid the check and led her to the parking garage 3 blocks away. His car was ridiculous. A Bentley, black and sleek, and worth more than she'd make in 5 years. This is obscene, Elena said, but she couldn't help running her hand along the smooth exterior. It's transportation, Damien said, opening the passenger door for her. The interior smelled like leather and money. Elena sank into the seat and felt like she was in a different universe. Damien drove carefully through the early morning streets. Put on music, something classical and soothing. Where to? Queens, Jackson Heights. I know it. My father's shop was in Corona. The neighborhoods shifted as they drove, from Manhattan's sleek towers to Queens' sprawl of apartments and shops and leaves packed tight. Elena directed him to a shabby building with a bodega on the ground floor. This is me. Damien looked at the building, then at her. Elena! I know what you're thinking, but it's home. It's safe. It's mine. I wasn't judging. Yes, you were. A little. He smiled ruefully. Maybe, but only because you deserve better. I'll get there, on my own terms. Damien turned off the engine. They sat in the silence, dawn breaking around them, neither wanting to leave. Can I see you again? He asked. Tomorrow night, after your shift. This is crazy. I know. You know what people will say if they find out? I don't care what people say. You should. You have a reputation to protect. My reputation is that I'm a ruthless businessman who cares about nothing but profit. Maybe it's time to change that narrative. Elena looked at him, really looked at him, saw the hope and vulnerability and desperate loneliness he was trying so hard to hide. One more time, she said. We'll meet one more time, and then we'll see. Same place. Julio's. No. Somewhere else. Somewhere we won't run into anyone from your world or mine. Where? Elena thought for a moment. There's a park in Astoria, by the water. It's quiet at night. No one goes there. I'll find it. She opened the door, then paused. Damien, don't expect too much from this. I can't be what you need. You already are, he said quietly. Elena left before she could respond to that. Climbed the 4 flights to her tiny studio apartment, collapsed on her bed without changing, stared at the cracked ceiling, and wondered what she'd just started. Sleep wouldn't come. Her mind replayed every word, every look, every moment of connection that shouldn't exist but did. She had class in an hour, work at the hospital in 6 hours, her night shift at his building in 14 hours. There was no room in her life for this, but her heart didn't care about logistics. The next day passed in a blur, online accounting lecture she barely absorbed. Afternoon shift at the hospital cafeteria, serving food to doctors and nurses who looked through her like she was invisible, home for 2 hours of sleep that didn't come. Then, back to Manhattan, back to the Cross and Associates building, back to the place where everything had changed. Elena cleaned on autopilot. Her body went through the motions while her mind was elsewhere. Would he be there? Would he stay away? Did she want him to stay away? The answer to that last question terrified her. She finished the executive floor. His office was last. The door was closed. No light underneath. Elena told herself she wasn't disappointed. This was better. Safer. She could forget the impossible hope that had bloomed in her chest. She pushed her cart toward the elevator. Elena. She turned. Damien stood in the hallway, backlit by the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. He'd changed. Jeans, a sweater, looking more human, and somehow more dangerous because of it. I thought you weren't coming, she said. I'm done watching from the shadows. He crossed the distance between them. Are we still on for tonight? The park? I don't know if this is a good idea. It's probably a terrible idea, but I can't stop thinking about you. I tried. Spent all day in meetings pretending to care about quarterly projections, when all I could think about was the way you see through every mask I wear. Damien, just tonight. Give me tonight. If you want to walk away after, I'll understand. I'll leave you alone. But give me this chance to show you this isn't just loneliness or fantasy or whatever you think it is. Elena should say no. Should protect herself. Should remember all the reasons this couldn't work. Instead, she said, Ooh, midnight, the park. His smile was devastating. I'll be there. Her shift ended. Elena changed in the bathroom, washing away the day, putting on jeans and a simple sweater, took the subway to Astoria, got off at the last stop, walked 3 blocks to the waterfront park. The East River glittered under city lights. The Manhattan skyline was a postcard across the water. Damien was already there, sitting on a bench, looking out at the river, looking utterly alone, despite being surrounded. Demanded by one of the most populated cities in the world. Elena said softly. He turned, stood. You came. I said I would. I was afraid you'd change your mind. Realize how insane this is. It is insane, Elena agreed. But I'm here anyway. They walked along the waterfront path. No destination. Just movement. Being. Tell me about your mother, Damien said. What's she like? Stubborn, strong, impossible. She refuses to admit she's sick, refuses to slow down, refuses to let me sacrifice everything for her, even though I will anyway. Sounds like someone else I know. Elena smiled. I get my stubbornness from her. It's not stubbornness, it's strength. What's the difference? Strength is knowing what matters and fighting for it. Stubbornness is refusing to admit when you need help. Then we're both strong and stubborn. They found another bench, sat close enough that their shoulders touched. The contact felt monumental. Tell me about your company, Elena said. What do you actually do all day? Make money, mostly. Buy companies, restructure them, sell them. Repeat. It's not as glamorous as it sounds. Does anything about your life actively make you happy? The question was blunt, honest, the kind of thing no one in his world would ever ask. Damien was quiet for a long moment. Watching you reorganize my pens, he finally said. That makes me happy. Pathetic, right? Not pathetic. Human. I've forgotten how to be human, Damien admitted. Somewhere between building the company and losing myself, I forgot there's supposed to be more than just winning. What would more look like? This, sitting in a park with someone who doesn't care about my money. Someone who sees me. He turned to face her. I know this is fast. I know it's complicated. I know all the reasons it shouldn't work. But, Elena, I haven't felt this alive in years. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Damien asked, his hand finding hers on the bench between them. Their fingers intertwined, a simple touch that felt like jumping off a cliff. Of this being temporary, of you realizing I'm just a fantasy, of losing my job, of my mother finding out and being disappointed, of falling for you and having it destroy me when it ends. What if it doesn't end? Everything ends. Not everything. Some things last. In fairy tales, maybe. Then let's write a new fairy tale. One where the cleaning woman and the billionaire figure it out. One where different worlds can exist together. Elena laughed, but it came out shaky. You make it sound simple. It is simple. I care about you. You care about me. Everything else is just noise. The noise is loud, Damien, and he brought their joined hands to his lips, kissed her knuckles gently. The gesture was old-fashioned and devastating. Then we'll learn to ignore it. The park was empty, except for them and the distant sound of traffic. The city hummed its eternal song, and in that bubble of quiet, Elena let herself imagine it. A world where this worked, where the impossible became possible. I've never done this, she said quietly. Done what? Any of this. Dating. I mean, I've been on dates, but nothing serious. I've been too busy surviving to live. Then let's live, Damien said. Let me take you to dinner. A real dinner. Not a diner at midnight. I can't afford the places you go. I didn't ask you to pay. That's not the point. I don't want to be some charity case you're rescuing. Damien's jaw tightened. Is that what you think this is? A rescue? Isn't it? Rich man, poor woman. You swoop in, fix all my problems. I'm grateful and fall into your bed. It's a story as old as time. You have no idea how insulting that is. To you and to me. Hey. Elena pulled her hand away. Then tell me what this is. Because I don't understand. Why me? You could have anyone. Models. Actresses. Women from your world. who know how to be what you need. I don't want women from my world, Damien said, his voice rough. I've tried that. They see the money, the power, the image. They want what I can give them, not who I am. You're the first person in years who's looked at me and seen a lonely man instead of an ATM. So it's about feeling seen. It's about feeling human. It's about watching you care for my space, like it matters, and realizing no one has cared for me like that in longer than I can remember. It's about sitting in this park and having a real conversation instead of a carefully choreographed exchange where everyone's playing a role. Elena wanted to believe him. The sincerity in his voice, the pain in his eyes, it all felt real. But life had taught her to be careful. I need time, she said, to think about this, to figure out if I can handle the complications. Take all the time you need. And if I decide I can't do this? Damien's face fell, but he nodded. Then I'll respect that. I'll leave you alone. But Elena, please, give us a chance before you decide it's impossible. She stood. He stood with her. They faced each other in the dim park lights, two people from different worlds trying to find common ground. 1 week, Elena said. We'll meet. Like this. Just talk. No pressure. No expectations. And at the end of the week, I'll decide if this is something I can do. 1 week, Damien agreed. Every night. I have work. I have school. I have my mother. Then whenever you can, even if it's just an hour, even if it's just this park bench. Elena nodded. Started to walk away. Elena. She turned back. Thank you, Damien said simply, for giving me this chance, for seeing me. She didn't trust her voice, so she just nodded and left. The week that followed was surreal. They met 4 times. Different parks. Different quiet corners of the city. Each time they talked. About everything. About nothing. He told her about the pressure of building an empire, about the father who died disappointed in his son's corporate success. She told him about her grandmother's songs, about her dream of opening her own accounting firm someday, about the guilt of leaving her mother alone in Queens while she worked, herself to exhaustion. On the 4th night, sitting by the water in Brooklyn, watching the Manhattan skyline shimmer across the East River, Damien asked the question she'd been dreading. What do you want, Elena? Not what you think you should want. Not what's practical. What do you actually want? She was quiet for a long time, watching the water, feeling his warmth beside her. I want to stop being invisible, she finally said. I want someone to see me and not look away. I want to matter to someone. I want... She trailed off. What? I want this to be real, she whispered. Even though it terrifies me. Even though I know it could hurt. I want this. Damien exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. It is real, I promise you. It's real. He reached for her hand again. She let him. I want to kiss you, he said quietly. But I need you to want it too. I need you to choose this. Elena's heart was hammering. She'd been kissed before. But never like this. Never with this much weight behind it. Never with the feeling that saying yes would change everything. Yes, she whispered. Damien leaned in slowly, giving her time to change her mind, to pull away. But she didn't. Their lips met. Soft at first. Tentative. Then deeper. Hungrier. 3 weeks of tension and wanting poured into that kiss. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Come home with me, Damien said against her lips. Tonight! Let me show you what this could be. Fear and desire warred in Elena's chest. I've never... She started, then stopped. Damien pulled back to look at her. Really? Look at her. Never what? The confession hung between them. Elena felt her cheeks burn. At 26, It felt like an admission of failure, like proof she'd been too busy surviving to live. "I've never been with anyone," she said, the words barely audible. "I've been too focused on school, on work, on my mother. There hasn't been time. And I never—" She trailed off. "Never met anyone worth the risk?" Damien finished gently. She nodded. "Until now." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Elena, look at me." She did. His eyes were intense but soft, understanding. "This changes nothing about how I feel. If anything, it makes me want you more. Not because of some archaic idea about purity, but because you're trusting me with something precious." "Are you disappointed?" "Disappointed?" Damien laughed quietly. "I'm terrified. I'm honored. I'm desperate to make this perfect for Ojua. But disappointed? Never. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I. Not really. Not with anything that matters." He kissed her again, softer this time. "Come home with me. We'll go as slow as you need. We'll stop if you want to stop. I just want to be with you." Elena knew this was a turning point. Knew once she crossed this line, there was no going back. But for the first time in her life, if she wanted to stop being careful, wanted to choose something just because it felt right. "Okay," she whispered. The drive to his apartment was quiet, charged with anticipation and nerves. He lived in Tribeca, in a building that required a key just to access the elevator. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, art that probably cost more than her yearly income. It was beautiful and sterile, and so obviously lonely it made her heart ache. "This is where you live?" Elena asked. "This is where I exist," Damien corrected. "It's never felt like living." He led her to the windows. Manhattan sprawled below them, a carpet of light stretching to the horizon. "I bought this place thinking the view would fill the emptiness. Instead, it just emphasized how alone I was. It's beautiful. It's a cage." He turned to her. "But right now, with you here, it feels different. It feels like it might actually be a home." Elena moved into his space, reached up to touch his face. "Show me," she said. "Show me what home could feel like." Damien's control cracked. He kissed her hard, pulling her against him, pouring 3 weeks of restraint into the contact. Elena gasped against his mouth, and he gentled immediately. "Sorry. Too much?" "Not enough," she breathed. He lifted her, and she wrapped her legs around his waist. The bedroom was dark, just city light filtering through gauze curtains. He set her down gently on the bed. Enormous, draped in white silk. "We stop whenever you want," Damien said, his voice rough. "You're in control here." Elena pulled him down to her. "I trust you." What followed was slow, reverent. Damien undressed her like she was art, taking his time, worshipping every inch of skin revealed. When he discovered the small scars on her hands from years of cleaning with harsh chemicals, he kissed each one. When he found the burn mark on her shoulder from a kitchen accident, he traced it with his tongue until she shivered. Elena had never felt so seen, so cherished. "You're beautiful," he murmured against her skin. "So damn beautiful." She helped him undress, marveling at the contrast between them. His body was gym-sculpted, all hard muscle and smooth skin. Hers was softer, marked by a life of hard work and not enough rest. But the way he looked at her made her feel like a goddess. The first time he touched her intimately, Elena gasped. Pleasure she'd never imagined spiraled through her. "Okay?" Damien asked, his fingers stilling. "Don't stop," she pleaded. He didn't. He took his time. Learning her body, discovering what made her moan, what made her arch into his touch. When she fell apart the first time, she cried out his name like a prayer. Again, Damien said. And before she could catch her breath, he was building her up again. By the time he finally positioned himself between her thighs, Elena was trembling, with need, with nerves, with wanting. This might hurt, he warned. I'll go slow. I know. It's okay. I want this. I want you. He entered her carefully. The stretch was intense, bordering on painful, but Elena breathed through it. Damien stayed still, letting her adjust, kissing her face, her neck, her shoulders. Breathe, mi amor, he murmured. Just breathe. The endearment in Spanish surprised her, made her feel even more connected to him. When the pain faded to a dull ache, she nodded. Move. He did, slowly at first, then gradually building rhythm. Elena wrapped her legs around him, pulling him deeper, meeting his thrusts. The pain transformed into something else, something overwhelming and perfect and terrifying. Elena, Damien groaned. You feel incredible. They moved together, finding their rhythm, building towards something explosive. When it came, when they both shattered together, Elena understood for the first time why people wrote poetry about this. Why people lost themselves in another person. Why this act could feel sacred. Afterward, they lay tangled together, breathing hard. Damien's hand rested on her hip, and that's when he felt it. The slight dampness. He pulled his hand away. Look down. Blood. On his fingers. On the white silk sheets. Crim's proof of what they'd shared. Elena saw his face change. Saw realization dawn. Damien, you were really a virgin, he said, his voice cracking. I told you I was. I know. He looked at the blood again. At her. Elena, this means something. This meant everything, and He stopped. Started again. I need you to know I don't take this lightly. What you gave me tonight. What we shared. It's not just sex, it's more, Elena finished. I know. Damien pulled her closer, wrapping her in his arms like he could shield her from the world. I'm falling in love with you, he said against her hair. I know it's too soon, I know it's crazy, but I need you to know that. This isn't casual for me. You're not casual. Elena's heart clenched. She'd known this was coming, had felt it building. But hearing him say it made it real. I'm scared, she admitted. Of this, of how much I already feel for you. Then we'll be scared together. They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other. Eventually, Damien got up to clean her gently, to change the sheets, to care for her with a tenderness that made her want to cry. When they were back in bed, skin to skin, he asked, Stay the night, please? I have class in the morning. I'll drive you. I'll make you breakfast. I'll do whatever you need. Just stay. Elena nodded against his chest, listened to his heartbeat, slow. Felt sleep pulling at her. Damien? Yeah, I'm falling too for you, just so you know. His arms tightened around her. Best thing anyone's ever said to me. They woke tangled together, morning light flooding the bedroom. Damien watched her sleep for a moment, marveling at how different the space felt with her in it. How alive. Elena stirred, opened her eyes, smiled at him. Yeah. Morning. How do you feel? She considered. Sore, happy, terrified, hungry. I can help with the last three. The terrified part we'll work on together. He made breakfast, actual breakfast, not just coffee. Eggs, toast, fruit. They ate in his kitchen while the city woke up below them. I need to tell you something, Elena said, setting down her fork. This can't be just sex. I can't be the woman you call when you're lonely. I need more, Damien finished. I need more too. I want to date you properly, take you to dinner, meet your mother, build something real. My mother will have opinions, strong ones. I'd expect nothing less. And my friends, they'll think I've lost my mind. Have you? Completely, Elena admitted, but I don't care. Good, because I'm not letting you go. The next few weeks were a dream. They navigated the impossible logistics of their different worlds. Damien took her to dinner, not at fancy restaurants, but at small places in Queens near her apartment. Places that reminded him of his father, of his roots. Elena introduced him to her mother on a Sunday afternoon. Maria Martinez took one look at Damien and saw right through him. "You love my daughter?" she said in Spanish. It wasn't a question. "I do," Damien replied in careful Spanish. He'd been learning. For her. Maria studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Good. She deserves someone who sees her worth. But if you hurt her, I'll find a way to hurt you back. Billionaire or not." "I wouldn't expect anything less, señora." Where they ate arroz con pollo around Maria's small kitchen table. Damien told stories about his father's auto shop, about growing up poor, about understanding what it meant to struggle. Maria softened. By the end of the meal, she was asking about his business, offering advice, treating him like family. "She likes you," Elena said on the drive back to Manhattan. "I like her. She's formidable. She raised me alone after my father was deported. She had to be formidable." "You're just like her. Strong, determined, refusing to let circumstances define you." Elena leaned across the center console to kiss his cheek. "I love you," she said. It was the first time she'd said it. Damien's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Say it again. I love you, Damien Cross." He pulled over. "Right there, sir, on the side of the highway." Turned to her. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me. So much I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." They kissed until car horns honked behind them. At work, they were careful. Elena still cleaned the executive floor, still kept her distance during the day. But at night, after her shift, Damien would be waiting. Sometimes they went to his apartment. Sometimes they walked through the city, just talking. Always, they were together. 2 months after that first night together, Damien made a decision. He called to Matki held Elena one afternoon. "Come to the office tonight, but come early, before your shift." "Why?" "Trust me." She arrived at 7. The office was empty except for him. He'd set up a small table by the windows. Candles. Takeout from her favorite Colombian restaurant. "What is this?" "I wanted to show you," Damien said. "This space, it's different now. Because of you. You made it feel like home. And I wanted to have dinner with you here, where it all started." They ate while the sun set over Manhattan. Talked about everything and nothing. When the food was cleared, Damien pulled her to the windows. "Look at this city," he said. "I built my empire here. Conquered it. But I was never part of it. I was always on the outside. Looking in. Until you made me feel like I belong, not because of what I own, but because of who I am when I'm with you." "Damien, where is this going?" He turned her to face him, dropped to one knee. Elena's breath stopped. "I know it's fast," he said. "I know we've only been together a few months. But Elena, I've never been more certain of anything. You make me want to be better. You make me want to build a life instead of just a company. You make me believe in things I thought were fairy tales." He pulled out a small box, opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the city lights. "Marry me. Choose this crazy life with me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that different worlds can collide and create something beautiful. Tears streamed down Elena's face. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, 1,000 times, yes. He slid the ring on her finger, stood, pulled her into his arms, and kissed her like she was oxygen. I promise you, he said against her lips. I'll spend every day making sure you never regret this. I could never regret you. They stayed there, wrapped in each other, the city twinkling below them like it was celebrating too. The engagement changed things, made them real in a way that terrified and thrilled Elena simultaneously. She moved into his apartment 2 weeks later, bringing her few possessions into his sterile penthouse and slowly transforming it. Plants appeared on the windowsills, colorful blankets draped over the modern furniture, and photos of her mother, her grandmother, her life before him. Damien loved every change, loved watching his space become their space. He'd never realized how much he'd been living in a showroom until Elena made it a home. They set a wedding date. 6 months away, small and intimate, just family and close friends. I don't want a spectacle, Elena said. I just want us. Then that's what we'll have. But planning a wedding meant navigating 2 worlds that had never been meant to intersect. Damien's business associates expected a society wedding. Elena's family expected a traditional ceremony. They compromised. A ceremony in the small church in Queens, where Elena's grandmother had been buried. A reception at a rooftop venue in Manhattan. 2 worlds meeting in the middle. The months leading up to the wedding were chaotic. Elena finished her accounting degree, graduated top of her class. Damien was in the audience, cheering louder than anyone when she walked across the stage. I'm proud of you, he said afterward, pulling her into his arms. You did this yourself. No one gave it to you. You helped. The tutors you hired were tools. You did the work. You earned this. She started interviewing. Several firms offered her jobs. Good jobs. But Damien had a different idea. Start your own practice, he said one night over dinner. You've always said you wanted to. Let me invest, not as your fiancé, but as someone who recognizes a solid business opportunity. I can't take your money. It's not a gift, it's an investment. I'll be a silent partner. You'll build it. Run it. Make it yours. I'm just providing capital. Elena considered. It was her dream, but she was terrified of failing, of proving she needed him to succeed. What if I fail? Then you'll learn and try again. But you won't fail. You're too stubborn. She laughed despite herself. Stubborn, huh? It's one of the things I love most about you. She agreed. Martinez and Associates opened 3 weeks before the wedding. A small office in a mixed neighborhood, accessible to the immigrant community Elena wanted to serve. She hired 2 assistants, started building a client base. Damien watched her come alive in a way he'd never seen. This was her purpose, her passion, and he'd been right. She was brilliant at it. The wedding day arrived. Elena woke in her mother's apartment, surrounded by cousins and friends, getting ready in the tiny bathroom where she'd once dreamed of something more. The dress was simple, elegant, nothing like the designer gowns Damien's world would expect. But it was her. You look beautiful, Maria said, tears in her eyes. Abuela would be so proud. Wish she could be here. She is. In spirit, in the songs you still hum, in the strength you carry. The church was packed. Elena's side was full of her extended family, her friends from school, her mother's church community. Damien's side was smaller. A few business associates, his college roommate, the assistant who'd worked with him for 15 years. But the disparity didn't matter. When the music started, when Elena walked down the aisle on her mother's arm, Damien saw nothing but her. She was radiant, glowing with happiness and certainty. When she reached him, he took her hand. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," she whispered back. The ceremony was bilingual, mixing traditions from both their worlds. When it came time for vows, Damien spoke first. "Elena, 3 months ago you were invisible to the world, but not to me. You taught me that real wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in connections, in purpose, in love. You saved me from a life of empty success. Today, I promise to spend the rest of my life making sure you feel seen, valued, and loved. I promise to be your partner in building our life together. I promise to honor where you come from while we create where we're going. I love you. Today, tomorrow, forever." Elena's tears fell freely. "Damien, you saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I felt worthless. You loved me when I couldn't love myself. Today, I promise to be your home, your safe place, your truth teller when the world only tells you what you want to hear. I promise to build our life with the same care I once cleaned your office, with attention to every detail, with respect for what matters. I love you, not for what you have, Demi, but for who you are when it's just us, forever." They exchanged rings, kissed as husband and wife, and the church erupted in celebration. The reception was on a rooftop in Manhattan. The views were spectacular, but Damien only had eyes for his wife. They danced their first dance to a song Elena's grandmother used to sing. Damien had learned the words in Spanish, whispered them in her ear as they swayed. "How did I get so lucky?" Elena murmured against his chest. "I'm the lucky one." "We're both lucky. We found each other." The night was perfect. Two families that shouldn't have mixed, mingling seamlessly. Maria teaching Damien's business partners to dance salsa. Elena's cousins, Toma, discussing investment strategies with hedge fund managers. Later, much later, after the reception wound down, after they'd said goodbye to the last guest, Damien and Elena stood alone on the rooftop. The city glittered around them. Their city now. Not his or hers, but theirs. "Take me home," Elena said. "Our home." They drove to the penthouse, but it felt different now. No longer sterile, no longer lonely. It was filled with their life, their love, their future. Damien carried her over the threshold, even though she laughed and protested. Set her down gently in the living room. "Mrs. Cross," he said, testing the name. "I like how that sounds." "So do I." They made love slowly, tenderly, no urgency, just savoring each other, knowing they had forever. Afterward, wrapped in each other, Elena traced patterns on his chest. "Remember that first night?" she asked, "when you whispered, 'I've been watching you'?" "I terrified you." "You did. I thought I'd lose my job, lose everything. And now I have everything." Damien kissed the top of her head. "We built this together, against all odds, against all logic. Love isn't logical. No, but it's real, and it's ours." They fell asleep tangled together. Husband and wife, partners, two people from different worlds who'd created their own. The next morning, Elena woke first, slipped out of bed carefully, made coffee in the kitchen, stood at the windows watching the city wake up. Damien found her there, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" "How different my life is now. A year ago, I was cleaning your office, invisible and exhausted. Now I'm your wife. I own my own business. I have a home I love." "Regrets?" "Not even one. You? Only that I didn't see you sooner. That I wasted 3 months watching from the shadows instead of talking to you. Maybe we needed that time. Maybe I needed to be ready to be seen. Maybe. They stood there, watching the sunrise paint the city gold. What do you want to do today? Elena asked. Nothing. Everything. As long as it's with you. She turned in his arms, kissed him softly. I love you, Damien Cross. I love you too, Elena Cross. The months that followed were an adjustment, learning to be married, learning to merge their lives completely. Elena's business grew. She became known in the immigrant community as someone who cared, who understood, who didn't judge. She helped families navigate taxes, start businesses, plan for futures they'd only dreamed of. Damien found himself changed by her work, started directing more of his investment toward community development, affordable housing, small business loans, things that mattered beyond just profit margins. You've made me soft, he joked one night. I've made you human, Elena corrected. There's a difference. They established routines, Sunday dinners with Maria, monthly dinners with Damien's small circle of friends who'd become their friends, date nights where they'd go back to that diner in Soho, sit in the same booth. Remember how it all started? 1 year after their wedding, Elena came home early from work, found Damien in his home office, staring at his computer with a strange expression. What's wrong? She asked. He turned to her. Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. I just got an email. The Singapore deal I've been working on for 2 years, it closed. That's amazing, Damien. That's huge. It is. $20 million profit. Biggest deal of my career. So why do you look sad? He stood, pulled her into his arms. Because I realized something. This deal, this success, it doesn't mean what it used to. A year ago, it would have been everything. Validation, proof of worth. But now, he gestured vaguely, now it's just work. What matters is coming home to you, building our life. The business is what I do. You're who I am. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I love you. I love you more. Impossible. They stood there, holding each other in the office where Damien had once spent lonely nights working. Now it was just one room in a home full of life and love and meaning. I want to tell you something, Elena said. I'm listening. I've been thinking about them, that first night. When you whispered that you'd been watching me, I was so scared, but also, somewhere deep down, I was thrilled. Because I'd been watching you too, wondering about you, curious about the lonely man who worked until midnight every night. You were? I'd see you through the glass sometimes. Your office. You'd be on the phone or staring at your computer, and you looked so alone. And I wanted to comfort you, to tell you that success wasn't worth this isolation. But I thought you were untouchable. Out of my league. A fantasy. I was never untouchable. I was just waiting for you to touch me. Well, I'm touching you now. Yes, you are. They kissed, and in that kiss was everything they'd built together. Every obstacle they'd overcome. Every moment of doubt they'd pushed through. Every choice to choose each other. Later that night, after dinner, after talking about their days and their dreams, Elena said something that made Damien's world shift again. I think I'm pregnant. He froze. You think? I haven't taken a test yet, but I'm late and I feel different. And I thought you should know. Elena. His voice cracked. If you are, if we are, this is terrifying and wonderful, she finished. Yeah. That. They took the test together. Waited the 3 longest minutes of their lives. When the result appeared, when those 2 pink lines confirmed what Elena had suspected, they both cried. We're having a baby, Damien whispered. We're having a baby, Elena confirmed. He pulled her into his arms, held her like she was the most precious thing in the world, which she was. I promise you, he said. I'll be a good father, better than mine was. I'll be present, involved. I'll teach them that people matter more than profit, that love is the only thing worth building. I know you will, because you're already better than you think you are." The pregnancy transformed them both. Damien became fiercely protective, hovering, worrying about every little thing. Elena bloomed, her body changing in ways that amazed and horrified her. They turned the spare bedroom into a nursery, painted it soft yellow because they wanted to be surprised. Damien assembled furniture while Elena directed, both of them laughing when he inevitably messed up the instructions and had to start over. "This crib is going to collapse the first time we put the baby in it," Elena teased. "It will not. I'm a billionaire. I can assemble furniture, but being rich doesn't mean you're handy. I resent that." But he was smiling, always smiling now. The loneliness that had defined him for so long had disappeared completely, replaced by purpose and live and the terrifying joy of impending fatherhood. 7 months into the pregnancy, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, they were back in Astoria Park, the same bench where they'd had their second meeting, where Elena had agreed to give them a chance. "Do you remember sitting here?" Damien asked, terrified and hopeful at the same time. "I remember thinking you were insane for wanting this, for wanting me. Best insanity I've ever committed to." Elena leaned against him, his hand on her swollen belly. The baby kicked, and Damien laughed with pure delight. "She's strong, like her mother. He's stubborn, like his father." They still didn't know. Wanted the surprise. Wanted that moment in the delivery room when everything would be revealed. "I've been thinking," Elena said, "about how we got here, about that night you stepped out of the shadows and changed everything. Scared you half to death. You did, but also woke me up. I'd been sleepwalking through my life, just surviving. You made me want to live. You did the same for me. I was so lost, Elena. Building and building, thinking the next deal would finally fill the void. But it was you. It was always going to be you." "Damien?" "Yeah? I'm glad you were watching. I'm glad you couldn't stay hidden. I'm glad you took the risk of terrifying me with those words. I've been watching you. Best thing anyone's ever said to me, because it meant I wasn't invisible anymore. It meant someone saw me, really saw me." They sat there as the sun set over the East River, two people who'd found each other in the least likely place, a cleaning woman and a billionaire. Different worlds that had collided and created something beautiful. 2 months later, Elena went into labor. It was long and difficult, and Damien held her hand through every contraction, every push, every moment of pain. And when their daughter finally arrived, when the doctor placed that tiny, screaming bundle in Elena's arms, Damien wept. "She's perfect," he whispered. "She's ours," Elena said. "They named her Sophia, after Elena's grandmother. The one who'd taught her that worth wasn't measured in money, but in love and dignity and the courage to keep going. Sophia had her mother's brown eyes and her father's stubborn chin. She was beautiful and loud and completely transformed their world." Damien discovered fatherhood suited him. He cut back his hours at work, hired a sueto to handle day-to-day operations, started coming home at reasonable times. He wanted to be present, to not repeat his father's mistakes of working himself to death for a future that never came. Elena balanced her business with motherhood, brought Sophia to the office sometimes. Her clients loved it, said it showed she understood the struggle of working mothers, of trying to build something while raising children. 5 years passed. Then 10. Their life evolved. Sophia started school. They had another child. Then another. The penthouse that had once been sterile and lonely was now chaotic with toys and laughter and sticky handprints on the windows. Damien's business continued to grow. but it was no longer his whole identity. He was a father first, a husband, a man who'd learned that true wealth was measured in moments, not millions. Elena's firm thrived. She hired more associates, opened a second office, became a voice in her community, a success story that inspired others. And on quiet nights, after the children were to asleep, after the chaos of the day had settled, Damien and Elena would stand at those floor-to-ceiling windows and remember. "Do you ever miss it?" Damien asked one night. "The simplicity of before?" "Never. This chaos is perfect." "Even when the twins colored on the walls?" "Even then, because it's life. Real, messy, beautiful life." Damien pulled her close. "I love you. More every day. I didn't think that was possible." "It's possible, because love isn't static. It grows, changes, deepens." They stood there, looking out at the city that had witnessed their story. From that first night, when he'd stepped out of the shadows to this moment. Parents, partners, forever. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin in the most ordinary places. A cleaning woman and a CEO. Different worlds that shouldn't intersect. But love doesn't care about logic. It doesn't care about class or money or what's appropriate. Love sees. Really sees. And when someone truly sees you, when they look past the surface to the person underneath, when they choose you despite all the reasons they shouldn't, that's when magic happens. Damien and Elena built their love in stolen moments and midnight conversations. They built it through vulnerability and courage and the willingness to risk everything for something real. And in the end, they proved that fairy tales do exist, just not the ones in books. The real ones, the messy ones, the ones where different worlds collide and create something neither person could have built alone. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can find you in unexpected places, if it made you believe that being seen is the greatest gift we can give each other, subscribe to this channel. Leave your like. Become a member to get early access to more stories like this. And if you felt it was worth your time, click that super thanks button. Your support means everything and helps us continue bringing you narratives that move hearts and remind us all that we deserve to be seen. Because somewhere out there, someone is watching for you. Someone is waiting to say. And when they step out of the shadows and whisper those words, when they make you feel visible for the first time, you'll understand. Love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who sees you perfectly, who loves you not despite your flaws, but because of your whole, complicated, beautiful truth. Damien found that in Elena. Elena found that in Damien. And you'll find it too. Just keep believing. Keep being open. Keep letting yourself be seen. Because the most extraordinary love stories are still being written. And yours might just begin with someone whispering, "I've been watching you."